It's the Baguette update, or at least a super early version of it. We're still in alpha, and boy does it feel like alpha. But hey, the most important thing, there's a new diet option. Check that out, for all your carbo-loaded needs. I mean, okay, it's the obvious joke, because come on, it's the Baguette edition, but whatever. Anyway, first up, we got the tutorial knight, who has now been replaced by the tutorial lady. That's it. There is a new NPC now in between areas that looks just like Jan, and they will allow you to change up the modifiers on your weapons, like basically respec any one of the weapons that you're holding at the time, or upgrade one of your weapons with gold. So even if you don't happen to find a highly upgraded weapon, you can kind of get the odds in your favor by upgrading it in between areas now. It's a really good change, I think. There's also the big upgrade that they have down to the Forge, which makes it so that you don't upgrade individual items, but how often items appear. So that's interesting. And elites and bosses now drop items along with their, normal loot. And those items are colorless, or they can even be legendary, like this Hayabusa boots here. Just, which makes getting very powerful weapons surprisingly easy. Then aside from that, there's also two new blueprints in this update. One is found in the Slumbering Sanctuary, where you find a big pit that you fall into that has spikes at the bottom. If you look on one of the sides, you can find this blueprint, which I'm not going to try to pronounce. It reduces the damage that you take from spikes. Interesting. I don't know how useful it could be in the normal game, but there's spike pits in the hand fight, and that could be pretty good. I don't know. The other blueprint requires a lot more stuff to get to. What you have to do first is you have to go through the promenade. Well, first off, you have to be on 3-cell mode at least, because you are taking the shortcut door in the ramparts to go fight the Watcher. What you do is you need to get all 3 of the Gardener's Keys, the standard thing that you may or may not have been doing since the very early days of the Forge update. And then in the ramparts, graveyard, and sepulcher, you'll find 3 of these doors, very sneakily hidden in walls. Oh, before I get to the gate, they have a new background now for the Watcher. It looks pretty cool. It has the King's emblem all over it now, so it feels a little less out of place in the game. I mean, I appreciate the adherence to lore here. I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, each one of the areas in the graveyard, ramparts, and sepulcher are all pretty hidden here. It took me quite a while to find this one, to the point that I actually found the Architect's Key before I even managed to see the little seam in the wall there. That's one of the things they've changed up now. You can't just see the secret areas in the walls anymore, so you have to be a little bit more observant if you want all the stuff. And then after you trade all of the 3 of the Gardener's Keys for these keys of the Moonlight Flower, I'm not sure. There's one more area. You go through all 3 of the doors using all 3 of the keys that you got, and you get this blueprint, which is definitely an interesting looking one. You might recognize it from maybe kind of what Alienation looks like, and indeed, I think, I do not know French, so I can't say with absolute certainty, but I believe that what it does is it reduces the amount of kills that it takes to get rid of curses. So pretty much what has happened now is that Alienation has been split into 2 different mutations that do what the old Alienation used to. So that's interesting. Also, a very difficult to get one. The last thing that has been changed up are challenge rooms. They are now proper, not terrible things. Let's just go with that. Instead of fighting a whole ton of enemies without getting hit, you are instead greeted by this non-animated ghost spirit thing. Anyway, what you can do is you can either leave immediately, or you can grab this chest. And the chest contains, I haven't done a whole lot of them, so I'm not entirely sure if it's every single time, but it contains a scroll of power and some sort of loot that you would normally get in a challenge room chest, which I think comes from the elite pool, as it were. But anyway, after you open up the chest, now you are committed to doing this whole big gauntlet where it's just traps, no enemies, and pretty much you just have to get through and survive. It's a much less tedious sort of way to do challenge rooms, certainly. No less difficult, though. Hey, maybe this is what the spike mutation could be used for.